had to leave, and I quit that company, and I started pulling my resume together as Celia, put she and they pronouns, and started applying in all the companies, almost like 30, 40 companies across LA. Every company that had a pink flag, rainbow flag, that would hire me. I put my cover letter. I was excited. I started writing all these amazing resume, and I started applying for jobs. And I went for trans can work job fairs.
Mhm.
And what was surprising to me is companies are willing to hire trans people at a lower level,
Mhm.
but they were not willing to hire trans folks at a senior level.
This is the Transparency Podcast Show with hosts Shelbe Chang and Michelle Herman from Long Beach, California, where we bring you life transformation stories, business, investment, personal development, entertainment, and more.
Welcome back to Transparency Podcast Show. My name is Shelbe, and we also have Michelle as a co-host on the other side of the screen. Hi,
Good
Michelle.
morning, Shelbe.
How
are you
been?
today?
I've been good. Just busy with real estate. How about yourself?
Yes, you've had open houses and all kinds of busyness.
It's exciting actually. So today, the guest I'm going to bring it up. We go way back around 2013, 12.
Wow.
It was a time when I started doing some movies, actings, and LGBT love stories. That's how I kind of cross path with her, because at that time she has her YouTube channel, and somehow we just connect through Facebook at that time. And then we never really met in person until one of our friends, who unfortunately got murdered, and we went through that whole, it hit home. So we kind of went to the court hearing, and so her name is Celia Daniels. So Celia, you can tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, like your background, how did you begin your gender identity journey?
Yeah, thank you so much, Shelby. I identify as a gender non-binary person of color. Okay. I'm an immigrant. I'm an Asian. I have 25 years of experience working in the corporate industry. And one of the advocacies that I focus on is bringing change in the diversity spectrum from the bathroom to boardroom. Mm-hmm. And that's my passion. That's what I love doing, educating companies and bringing my corporate experience and helping companies to hire more trans and gender non-binary and intersex community into the workplace. So that's what I do.
That's great.
I love that. Bathroom to the boardroom.
Yeah. That's an awesome slang. Yeah. So I know you involved with trans can work. Right. I want to tell you a funny story that nobody knows. It's kind of embarrassing personally, because when they first started about 2016, remember? I was cast to do like their information.
Oh my goodness!
Commercial, but somehow, because you two probably know my story. I had a breakup, and then that was at that time, and then I forced myself to show up, and then I did it very horrible. I cannot read my lines. And then they asked me, smile. I just can't smile. Anyways, that's just my little connection with trans can work. But throughout these years, I can see they do a lot of different job affairs, right? And then,
absolutely.
Yeah. So
job fairs, trying to hire trans folks.
Right. And those are, I've been one time, and they are not mom and pop businesses, like a major big names and banks and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So can you tell us like what's your role in this trans can work?
So I'm in the executive board for Trans Can Work, and I've been involved with the organization when Michaela Mendelson started this organization. She was the CEO of El Pollo Loco.
Yeah, franchise.
So she offered jobs for almost 50 Latino marginalized community in El Pollo Loco that made a big splash across the country. And even Katie Couric had featured her on some of the magazines that came out in, I think even in National Geography, not in National Geography, I think in National Geography, it was featured as Gender Revolution. So there were a lot of things she made, and it created an interest in me to think about it because I wasn't out at the time. I was still trying to be out.
Right.
I was out in the community,
Yeah.
but I wasn't out in the workplace because I was afraid of losing my job. And that's when I started volunteering for transgender work, being out there, trying to help them get some opportunities in companies. And I've been in panels with transgender work. And in fact, I went as Celia and presented along with transgender work with Michaela in a company where I was consulting as Daniel. It was funny.
Oh,
So they didn't
wow.
know who this person was, and I was talking about the products and everything that I knew, and they were all curious, who is this person? How does she know our product? She knows by name. And
Oh, wow.
I didn't come out at the time because I was still a little worried. But it's funny how I have been, my journey has been all these organizations, even LGBTQ, LA organization, all of these organizations have been a great stepping stone for us. And friends like yourself, it really helped a lot in
Yeah.
those times when we were all in the same boat. We were like trying to figure out what's going on with our lives
Right.
and we didn't know where our future is going to take us to. And look at where we are years after.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, so you mentioned about you then came out before your last job, and then you came out. Did you lose your job after you came out and you started your own business? Is that what happened?
No, I was working with companies which are doing clinical trials for biopharmaceuticals. My experience comes in the healthcare and life sciences industry.
Right.
So I was working in the industry for a while, and my gender dysphoria was very high at the time. I couldn't be presenting myself as Daniel. I'll be wearing suit, presenting. I'll go back to my room or my hotel or my house, and then put on a maxi dress and feel like my head is above the water. Breathing up, taking deep breath, like, oh my God, I'm so comfortable now. And it was really hard. And I was doing that for a very long time. And that's when I quit my one of the last consulting companies. It was a top 5 consulting firm in America. I quit that company. I was 3 levels below the CEO, reporting to my executive director, who was at the senior vice president at the time. And I could not continue anymore. And I felt like I had to leave. And I quit that company. And I started pulling my resume together as Celia, put she and they pronouns, and started applying in all the companies, almost like 30, 40 companies across LA. Every company that had a pink flag, rainbow flag, that would hire me. I put my cover letter. I was excited. I started writing all these amazing resume. And I started applying for jobs, and I went for trans can work job fairs. And what was surprising to me is companies are willing to hire trans people at a lower level, but they were not willing to hire trans folks at a senior level. I was a senior executive in a company, and I'm a brown person, and women are struggling here. How would they hire a trans person like me? And so I faced discrimination. I was without a job for 1 year. I was struggling for a job. And that's when it occurred to me that, wow, this is really happening.
Right.
Why? And I didn't compromise on it. I had almost like 800 people reporting to me across the globe. My P&L was 250 million. And I had so much of, equity built in my resume, value that I had as a brown, successful businessman, Daniel. But when I came out as Celia, the kind of jobs I was given was project coordinator, administrator, and maybe less than $80,000. I was earning around $250,000 to $300,000, and here my salary just went back into like $80,000 with 25 years of experience in the industry, just because I came out.
Right. We did an episode on that about the ratio and status, right, Michelle?
Yes, the pay gap, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So that's why we kind of do this show, Michelle, because, we encourage, we know that this problem is there, but we want to solve it. We want to be moving on, so that's why we do this show, to encourage people to own their own business, be entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Right.
So,
that motivated me.
Go
for it. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What were some of the things that those corporations told you in that time that they didn't recognize your experience because you now are presenting as a woman?
I'll give you one experience. In a trans job fair, there was a senior, I won't mention the company of the where I had this interview, but the senior vice president of this financial company, she looked at my resume and she looked at me and said, Celia, I said, there is a job in your company as a director. Can I join your company? And this is a trans job fair.
Wow.
And she said, Celia, I don't think you will fit into our company because they're all white, old men. And I don't want to put you in front of them as much as I really want to make a change in the company. I'm struggling. She was a senior vice president of HR.
Wow.
And to me, that told volumes. And I said, can you please get me one interview? I will be able to impress them.
Right.
I have a
Yeah.
great credential and I can do it. She tried and she came back to me and she told me that, Celia, I'm not going to lie to you and I cannot. She was a good ally. But those are the kind of stories I heard. And in another company, which is a mobile company, Verizon, when I applied for a job and I went for the interview, the HR manager, she told me, you look like a woman. You don't have to tell you're trans. Don't worry about it. And I said, you're not listening to me. I'm
Yes.
gender non-binary. I don't want to identify as a woman. And I don't want to this is my identity.
Exactly.
And so it's not a compliment saying that I look like a woman. That's a wrong thing to say. There were lots of things like this, especially one of the recruiter called me and said, am I talking to Celia Daniels? And I said, yes, this is she. And he started on and on. And he said, but you sound like a man. I told him, did you check my resume before calling me? Did you check my LinkedIn before calling me? And he said, no, I did not. And that's why I'm calling you. And I said, you should do your homework before calling a trans person. My pronouns are very clear. My LinkedIn profile is there. Why didn't you look at it before calling me?
Wow.
And then he said, he didn't even apologize. He just went on and on. And I felt so much of gender dysphoria in that call because he mentioned again, hey, but excuse me for a second, you sound like a man. I'm sorry. Are you really Celia Daniels? And that's the time it hit me that I said, no, this conversation is over. And he was from a very reputed firm. And for me to turn down that offer as a senior program manager for that company was really hard because I thought this is a great opportunity. But here's the thing. I put that little post on LinkedIn and I woke up in the next morning and I saw there were 1.4 million views on LinkedIn.
Wow.
On LinkedIn, nobody sees, we probably get like 20,000 views. 1.4 million views on LinkedIn, and in 2 days it went to 2.4 million. And I was curious as to what people are telling about the situation. Are they really getting a message? It's not Celia's story, it's our story.
Right.
There are people like us who are being marginalized, even in the interview process. They are not educated. And to me, that was appalling.
Yeah.
So, there's so much that companies need to learn to change the way they work.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
I have similar experience. I have like two opinion on it. I think when I first work in Transamerica, I do a lot of phone calls in the beginning, and I did say my name, but Shelbe can be a man too. So when I call, and then in the beginning they always say, "Sir." Thank you, sir. Hi, sir.
Oh.
Yeah, but then over time, I kind of know how to adjust my voice higher, actually, or softer. And now the problem has gone away unless I just woke up. Then it's a different story. But then, but then the other kind, like, it's like I think some people purposely call you that to offend you, because I went to a city hall for real estate business to find out the blueprints and permits and all that. And then city hall has different. When you walk in, there's a security, there's barriers you need to go through. So at that time, from that point, when I go to the window, nobody call me sir or man or anything. But when I get to the window, this girl younger than me, and I asked a lot of questions. I think she got annoyed. So she goes, "No, sir, that's not it." So at that point, I know, because I look like this. I'm not looking,
right.
like I'm
nothing
trying to say.
masculine looking about you.
Right. So I think for what your story just told, maybe that they did it on purpose, try to not hire you, and you just back out. So I don't know, just my opinion. So do you have any?
Checking, yeah, you're right. They may be checking boxes too. A lot of times I feel like, hey, we want to hire a Black person. We want, George Floyd happened. Oh, anti-Asian issues are happening. Let's hire an Asian person. And trans people are getting murdered every year. And almost in 2021, there were 50 trans women, and almost more than 85% of the folks who were murdered were trans people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so companies are just intentional or sometimes very performative. They just want to hire people because they want to check these boxes, Shelby. And sometimes, what really bothers me is you can change a person who's ignorant. You cannot change a person who's arrogant.
Yeah. And then I like what you're saying, because during July, we just had a Pride Month. Every company you saw is about Pride Month. But what Celia says, Pride Month is now, Pride is not just a month, it's 365 days. So,
yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I think,
Celia,
go for it.
How do you see things are changing now? All of us have had experiences like that, and we'll continue to, because we still live in a very messed up world. But what positive things have you seen that have been more inclusive, more accepting, or more even questioning or asking what our preferred name is or what our preferred pronouns are? What have you seen that's been positive?
Yeah, no, looking at the statistics in California, 27% of the youth in California, according to the Williams Institute in 2019 that came out, identified as gender non-binary. The numbers are going up every day. And even if you look at in 2030, the workforce is going to be 75% of the workforce is going to be millennials and Gen Zs. We are looking at a revolution where people are coming out of not just a process issue, a technology issue, but also a people issue. They never had people issues so far. COVID disrupted the whole industry. It disrupted the whole world, where people have started telling the companies that this is how I'm going to work. You want to figure it out. So companies are now thinking about what they can do proactively. They are trying to hire trans folks. I'm working with a company today to implement pronouns. It's a $26 billion pharmaceutical in California. And I'm trying to bring in the pronouns, and I see that everyone is willing to use pronouns. But unfortunately, due to according to the Pew statistics, 48% of the Americans are still not comfortable using pronouns because they see what is on the top. Bathroom, they only hear bathroom, pronouns. Bathroom, sports, pronouns. They don't see under the surface how much we have struggled. Homelessness, being, going through mental health issues, going through incarceration issues. Every area of our life, we've been going through all these issues, and they don't see what is the root cause of the reason why people are different. Companies are changing, but I would say that I see a lot of change in the media industry also. The way in which the ads have come, it's always demeaning to the trans community. We've been portrayed as, drag queens or having a fishnet stock or just kissing someone.
Exactly.
It's always about that. I want to see trans entrepreneurs in the media industry. I want to see entrepreneurs, CEOs being portrayed in the media industry. I want to see astronauts who are trans in the media industry. And that's the way we want to change things. That's happening. But I'm glad that the younger generation is able to change that for the Gen X and baby boomers. And I'm so hopeful that the gender expansive community is much more on fire than my generation. My daughter is much more open to being an advocate for me than me. She talks about you
That's
probably.
great.
Yeah, she's 22 years old. I came out to her when she was 12. But I see that kind of change. And to me, that is very encouraging that the future generation, they're all thinking and they are all changing the way in which companies need to. I see a lot of change in the smaller companies, startups and smaller
Yeah.
companies than the traditional companies. IBM has done a great job. But when you look at companies which are culturally heteronormative, they have a lot more to do. And it's not about compliance in the companies anymore. It's about compassion over compliance. It's not about compliance, because compliance is important. And they need to look at gender non-binary in 2023 in your Equal Employment Opportunity Act. You need to add all that information. But it's also important not just to create a business value while you're adding a trans person. Look at the human value. And that's what I try to advocate for. And that's what I see companies doing is, hey, if we hire, we are much better than our peers. We are innovative. We are productive. So they create a business case. Then I always tell them, keep the business case to the CEO, get the funding, get the approval. When you execute it, you want to make sure the employees are transparent. You want to tell the entire employees that we are doing this intentionally to create a change and in our workforce, to have a psychological safe environment. That's the kind of workforce we are looking at, not just checking boxes, Black, Asian American. That needs to go away. I hope there will be one day when you don't have to check any of the race and ethnicity boxes.
Yeah.
It's like human being, it's like human being.
Human.
Check.
Exactly.
People, right? People.
People,
Yeah.
check.
Yeah. So I also realized that you noticed that you recently got into LinkedIn top 10 LGBTQI plus voices.
Yeah.
How did you how did they pick those people? Like, what did you have to do?
Yeah, I keep on advocating for the corporate change, and that's been one of the things that I've been doing, and they've been following me. Actually, I didn't know that. But I think what broke the glass ceiling was the 2.4 million hits in 2 days.
Oh,
And my story was featured as the LinkedIn top stories for that day. And then I didn't know. My friends called me and said, Celia, you've been featured as the LinkedIn story for today. And I looked at my thing, and then came the Ukraine war, and then came other things. And I was like, seriously? Are they really doing this? I was happy for that day, but I knew it will end, right? Because sometimes you get caught up in all this, and I wanted to leverage. And I said, this is great. People are learning. It's not Celia's voice. It's Michelle's voice. It's Shelby's voice. It's a voice of people like us. And so LinkedIn called me and said, we want to add you as one of the top 10 voices for LGBTQ in 2022. It's a good pat on the back. I wouldn't, I think we are all doing a great job. And so the recognition was a good pat on the back to me. And I will still continue to do, not because they have given me an LGBTQ voice thing, but I think we do. We are all amazing LGBTQ voices in this country and across the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is important. It is just a pat on the back, but it does recognize you and for your voice, for the work that you've been doing. And you've been doing so many things for so many years. And I've kind of seen you from the kind of the outside looking in. And I transitioned just over, well, it's about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. And so I'm still the newbie here. But I think it is important for us to recognize people like yourself that has put in the effort and put in the work in seeing this change. And some of us that are new, that are coming in, or maybe even not in a position to be able to transition yet, we can still base and learn from you. And based on your experiences, we can kind of help pattern our experiences around that. One of the questions I had was, because I think a trans person will make a great DEI advocate. What would be some ways? I actually have a friend she's a very good cis ally, but she wants to enter the DEI space because she really wants to advocate for the trans community specifically, but of course everybody as well. What are some ways someone without a college degree or a degree with something else, what are some ways people could get into this space?
I think the first important thing is to connect with the community, to understand the community, to listen to the community, learning to unlearn certain things. For example, pronouns was hard for me when I had to use they. I was raised with an Anglican English grammar from England, from in India. So to me, using they was really hard. And then I had to unlearn that this has been used since 13th century in Shakespearean language. It's always been there in Pickwick Papers. It's been there in a lot of authors have used they as to describe a person. They didn't want to describe a gender. So it's been there. And I think in getting involved in the community, understanding the community is so important. So I can give you one quick example. That is allies. The word allies means acknowledge your privilege that you're a cis person who's trying to help trans community. Listen to the voice of the trans folks in our community. Learn to unlearn things, which is very important. Instigate tough conversations and be in situations where you have to make tough decisions. And E is to educate yourself and to educate others. First, you need to educate yourself. You can't just educate others and start educating yourself after that. The last one is support by being involved in the community. So this is something that I would advise to your friend when you look at being an ally is understanding the whole package of being an ally. It's not just, and you don't have to have a college degree. You just need to have a heart. Your academic qualification probably gives you a platform, but I've seen that I am in platforms where there are judges in the call. There are, I would say, someone who has written councilmen, councilwomen, people who are very, very important making changes in the call. And I'm part of this conversations because they want to hear my point of view as a person of color and an immigrant. So there are a lot of times I feel that it's good to have someone advocating for us, but the most important thing is to not take away our space. Because I've seen a lot of, I posted in my recent posting on LinkedIn is give voice and give a platform for the trans community to tell their experiences and stories. The cisgender folks cannot share experiences like what we have gone through, the discrimination we have gone through, the issue we faced. They will not be able to share those narrations. They'll be just giving you theory. They will just say, "Oh, by the way, my friend Shelby went through this. My friend Michelle went through this," but it's not their story. So it's not. You don't need a college degree for this. You need a good way to improve in your public communication. So Toastmasters is a good way to improve your public speaking skills so that you will know how to articulate better within a given time. And I've been taking Toastmasters for a while, and my communication has improved quite a bit. I had a lot of vocal spikes, and I was able to learn to communicate much better and articulate much better because of these platforms. And so I would say, learn public speaking, be there, and keep on listening to the voice of the community. And when you have a panel discussion where if your friend, her name is Susan, is invited to speak, she needs to give a platform for Michelle to come and share her story, while Susan can talk about DEI as an ERG group, as a person who is a part of the ERG. But when it comes to the trans portion of it, bring people from the community, an Asian person, a Black person, a Native American person, who can be a part of these conversations. And then you tie them together rather than telling their stories, which is not a great way to be an ally, but so that's something that I would advise.
Excellent. Very well said. Thank you for that.
Okay, so tell us about your new business adventure. Where can people find you, and what kind of service do you do, and all that goodies?
Absolutely. So I started a management consulting firm called Rubicon Consulting. Rubicon came from my daughter's name. Her name is Rebecca.
Oh.
So I added, made it Rubicon. It's like the Rubicon, the Jeep company. And then Consulting LLC. What I do is I used to consult for biopharmaceuticals and healthcare companies managing large projects. I've done HIPAA project management. I've done PMOs, pulling all strategies together for from a molecule to market. What do you need to do? I've been working with a lot of in the space for a while, and then I kind of thought about it in a different way, and I said, I'm a trans person. I'm out in my workplace, and so let me start talking about DEI, because if I can change the hearts of the people, company will change, and so we can hire more trans people. So that's when I started the tagline as redefining DNIB from bathroom to boardroom. A lot of times we are not invited to make strategic decisions in the ERG. Even products that we have today in the market, you cannot put they, them in the product. While I was admitted last year in the hospital in the ER because I had a cardiac issue, I went there and I was lying on the table. I look very gender neutral. I have earrings. And I was lying there. This person took my ID, and there was an X in my ID. But she kept looking at me. She kept looking at it, and then she went to the system. It was a G EMR, an electronic medical record system. She added an M in the system because the system didn't have an option for an X. So sometimes we need to change technology vendors also. And when you build a product, we have to make sure it's neurodiverse. People can use it. So someone who's having dyslexia, someone who's having color, visually impaired folks, people like us, we need to be included in that. So I've been vocal about all the product companies. So product companies send me their products to evaluate and see if it's gender inclusive. I do that for some companies free of charge. I started writing policies for companies too. I've written policy for a very large electrical company. And I continue to do that. I continue to advocate for policy change in the company. Don't just hire trans people. Don't just hire trans people if you don't have policies, if you don't have framework, if you don't have people, process, technology in place. Get all that, get your ducks in a row, and then hire people. And that's my story across the board. So mental health challenges, I talk about that. And I've seen that a lot of them started inviting me to panel discussions and they want me to speak. And I told them, don't call me next year if you have not done anything about this.
Good for you.
I say it in a nice way, not in an arrogant way. But I tell them, hey, call me every year. What are you really doing inside? And they'll say, Celia, we're having a hard time. We have some bosses who don't even agree with this LGBTQ. I said, that's why I change it. I'll help you change. Write policies. Speak to your HR. I think that's what I love doing. That's my destiny, and that's what I do. My company can be is listed on LinkedIn in my profile, and also I'm a part of TransCan Work and the executive board, trying to hire. And I'm also politically active. So I'm the vice president of Stonewall Democrats in Ventura County. I do a lot of advocacy in our county. In this August, end of August, I'm going to the police station and educating my police chief here in Thousand Oaks about the way in which they need to be sensitive to the LGBTQ community. So I do all the advocacy. I'm working with the county of Ventura County to do DNI rehab, a department of rehab. I work with them. So I think we have a lot to do. We have a very small lifespan on this planet. I want to make a difference. I don't want to die as a CEO of a company, but if I create a CEO from a trans person, if I create a trans leader, if I create a trans astronaut, if I create a trans entrepreneur, and then that's what I am called to do. I'm called to enable people. I'm called to enrich and empower people. And that's what I love doing. And I'll continue to do that till I leave this planet.
That's awesome. Like a legacy, right?
So. Yes. Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you so much for all of your effort. And please understand that it's okay to receive accolades from other people, but really from our community, thank you so much for all the work you do. You are affecting change on the front lines that will impact so many of us. And so we stand in gratitude to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Shelby, for what you do.
Yeah, so we're going to close this out. Do you have any advice for people maybe? I always ask this for our interviewer because like you just said, our experience really counts, really make a difference. A lot of other people, they speak, they they pull the data, they pull the numbers or theory. So that's why, I always ask our guests, what's your advice for our audience listener who may be ally or who may be not, thinking about transition and not too sure, on that stage?
Absolutely. I think we all have our own journeys, and find out what your journey is, and confidently and boldly just go ahead with your journey. No matter what people say about your gender, the way you identify, the way that you use your pronouns, just do it. And you will be able to see that the community will change around you only if you change.
Right.
I think it's so important for you to lead the change, you to be the confident person in the room. If I can make a difference, a South Asian immigrant who was so shamefully living in India with guilt and shame can come out and create a change in a 40-year-old, $26 billion company. I'm the first gender non-binary person who made a change where my legal name is different from my birth name, from my authentic name. And if I can make a change, we all are change makers.
Mm-hmm.
You may be working in a McDonald's, you may be working in a small firm, you may be in a big firm, you have not come out. But just think about how much impact you can make. Even if you don't come out, find what your journey is and slowly come out the way you want to, not because others want you to. And for the allies, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, you are an amazing ally, and I'm sure that you will continue to be an amazing ally, but please give us platform to hear our voices, Shelby's voice, voice of Michelle, my voice, and people from our community in your panel discussions, in your conferences. Bring us in there, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that's going to change your conversation, the dynamics of how you manage your entire program and your trainings, your events. It will make a big difference. So thank you so much for this amazing time.
Thank you so much
Shelby,
for your time.
I know we have a lot to catch up.
Yes,
maybe
we have to catch up again in another episode or outside, on both.
Both, actually.
Yes.
I would love to talk about Melody at some point in time.
Yes, we haven't had a chance to talk about her.
We will do one session on that as to how the law firms. Yesterday I was in LA, Lambda Legal. I was in one of their meetings. So I was thinking about our situation, like maybe it's definitely a good conversation for a next conversation podcast.
Yeah.
About
Melody. Yes.
Yeah, those things will be great.
All right. So thank you for your time and thank you for all the information that you share and all your activist work. It's very amazing and inspired me personally.
Thank
you.
Yes, likewise. And we'll be sure to put all the links,
your links
and your website, everything. We'll put them on the show notes as well as YouTube. So thank you so much, Cecilia, for your time.
Thank you.
So we'll invite you back very, very soon.
Yes, very soon. Thank you.
I would love to.
All right. So thank you for listening and watching. We will be back next time.
Yes. Your voice matters. Just remember that. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.